traffic jam outside, so we may find a couple of folks straggling in. I don't think we have any public comment, but we do have a special presentation by our treasurer, Debbie Leas, and we're all looking forward to hearing about that.
Yes, this is a passion of mine. Has always been supporting our military, and that's because both of my parents were in World War II. My dad was MIA before he was a POW. And this Friday, the third Friday of every September, is POW MIA Day. And what I've set up behind me here is a missing man table. And I'm just going to read a little bit about what's on here and the symbolism of it all. And this is for those who have served and those currently serving in uniformed services in the United States, who are ever mindful of the sweetness of enduring peace has always been tainted by the bitterness of personal sacrifice. We are compelled to never forget that while we enjoy our daily pleasures, there are others who have endured and may still be enduring the agonies of pain, deprivation, and imprisonment. So I want to pause to recognize our POWs and MIAs. I want to call attention to the table behind me that occupies a place of dignity and honor. It is set for one, symbolizing the fact that the members of our armed forces are missing from our ranks. They are referred to as POWs and MIAs. We call them comrades. They are unable to be with their loved ones and their families, so we join together to pay humble tribute to them and to bear witness to their continued absence. The table is small, symbolizing the frailty of one prisoner, alone against his or her suppressors. The tablecloth is white, symbolic of the purity of their intentions to respond to their country's call to duty. The single rose in the vase signifies the blood they may have shed and sacrificed to endure the freedom of our beloved United States of America. This rose also reminds us of the family and friends of our missing comrades who keep faith while awaiting their return. The red ribbon on the vase represents an unyielding determination for a proper accounting of our comrades who are not among us. A slice of lemon on the plate reminds us of their bitter fate. The salt sprinkled on the plate reminds us of the countless fallen tears of families as they wait. The glass is inverted. They cannot toast with us at this time. The chair is empty. They are not here. The candle is reminiscent of the light of hope, which lives in our hearts to illuminate their way home, away from their captors to the open arms of a grateful nation. The American flag reminds us that many of them may never return and have paid the supreme sacrifice to ensure our freedom. So I just wanted to have us remember and never forget their sacrifice, and let us continue to have them be protected and protect their families. So thank you for this opportunity to talk about this morning.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Appreciate it. Very well done.
Such a crazy case world. It's nice to slow down and remember. Yeah. We get so busy. Already this morning we're flying around and stuff today. Go to the next meeting and just slow down. I remember. So thank you. That was
Thank
nice.
you, Debbie.
That was beautiful.
Yeah. Okay, moving on to action items. Are there any corrections, deletions, additions to the minutes from the August 15th meeting?
Move approval. Support.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Okay, Al, you're going to talk to us about uniform and shop item rentals.
Yes, sir. Good morning. I'm Al Burns, Director of Procurement. This morning, I'm bringing before you an action item for uniform purchase, rental, and supplies. A little bit of background. The PSTA Maintenance Department currently rents uniforms for the fleet, facilities, and service employees, which equates to approximately 386 uniforms a week. Also, the Transportation Department purchases uniforms for all of our operators. On July 2015, the board approved a contract with NAFICO to purchase uniforms for the bus operators and customer service employees. On that same day, the board also approved a contract with UniFirst Uniform Rental and Supplies. The contract value in the board action in July for uniforms did not include safety mats, shop rags, and shop towels. The fiscal impact on this, the first option year fee is included in the operating budget. There's two recommendations this morning. Recommendation A is recommend exercising the NAFICO contract option year 4, and recommend authorizing the CEO to exercise the second option year 5 with a total not to exceed amount of $443,320. That's the same dollar amount that was authorized in 2015. Recommendation B is recommend exercising UniFirst contract first option year 4, and recommend authorizing CEO to exercise the second option year 5, and increase the amount of the UniFirst contract value by $81,000 for a total not to exceed the amount of $190,828. Once again, in July of 2015, the shop mats, towels, and rags were not the value of those weren't included in the original contract that you approved in July 2015. If there's any questions, I'd be more than happy to answer them.
Okay, any questions?
Those are 2-year numbers. All those are 2-year numbers, right?
No, sir, these are 5-year numbers.
Oh,
But you're talking about 1 year additional at a time, correct?
this 443 here, does that represent 5 years?
Yes, sir.
Oh,
Oh,
okay,
okay.
all right.
That's not the
We
way it was.
misunderstood.
Mr. Chair?
Thanks for clarifying. That's good.
Maybe just to clarify, you might have noticed over the last, say, it seems like several months, the Finance Committee has approved a number of different contracts, really that are not changing the value of the contract. About when I started, actually it was a board-led initiative, PSTA was going to the board every single year with pretty standard maintenance-related, mostly maintenance-related contracts. And the board asked, could we do multi-year contracts for these kind of standard things? So we did, and they were almost all of them were 3 years plus 2 one-year options at our discretion. Just recently, our attorney, Alan Zimmet, has opined that the board really needs to delegate the authority to the CEO in order to exercise those options. Otherwise, we have to take them back, come back to the PSTA board. So as these contracts come up and the end of year 3, we're bringing them so that we're just making that change. We're not changing the contract at all. We're just changing the authority so that the option years can be exercised. So that's the case with the first one, which is the bus driver uniform. Not changing the contract. We're just getting the board authorization to exercise year 4 and 5 of the existing contract's options. B, we're doing that same thing for the maintenance uniforms, but in addition, we're upping the value by $81,000 to add in these towels and other things, which is under a separate contract, or?
Yes, there's 2 separate contracts. There's one contract for UniFirst, and there's one contract for NAFICO.
No, but who's providing the towels and the other?
UniFirst.
Under a separate deal?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
So the first one is purchasing the uniforms.
Yes, sir, for the
Years 4 and
operators.
5, and it's about, it looks like about 80-some thousand a year, is what, not? Okay.
Approximately.
All right.
Yes, sir.
And then the second one is 190,000 for the 5 years.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so it's bumped a little bit because of that. Okay.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay. Any other questions? Yes,
Thank
Mr.
you.
Scott?
So what I find with uniform companies, and I'm sure you guys have already vetted this out, but that's where I think those guys get paid on commission, the guys that deliver the uniforms. And they come in with these whiz-bang new things, and they're like, hey, how about this toilet paper holder here? We'll install here, won't cost you anything, right? We'll do it for free. All you gotta do is buy the refills. The next thing you know, you look at your invoice 6 months down the road, and suddenly you're like, well, why am I getting charged $50 a week for a toilet paper holder?
Yes, sir.
So do we have controls in place to make sure that these things, I mean, because I just reviewed a whole bunch of our uniform stuff yesterday, and if you don't do that once every 6 months or so and say, you know, cut this, cut this, cut this, it just tends to.
And sir, you're absolutely right. In my experience, I've been dealing with UniFirst and Centos over 20 years. And you have to watch their invoices. But we do, however, this contract is restrictive. It is only for uniforms, shop mats, and towels. There can't be any add-ons. Now, in the same breath, we have a separate contract, I don't know the contractor name off the top of my head, where we get those toilet paper holders and those janitorial supplies.
Okay. Anybody else? Al, the question I have, and you weren't here and I wasn't here at that time, this contract was originally done on a bid basis.
Yes, sir.
Okay, and so the benefit of adding years 4 and 5 is that we continue to get that same price, but just we're tacking on a year at a time for 2 more years.
That is correct.
Basically correct?
Yes, sir. At the time when you exercise, when you go out for bid, you do a contract for 3-year base or 2-year base or whatever that base period is. Before our office is allowed to bring before you to exercise the option, we have to go back and reevaluate those prices that we locked in for those option years and make sure they're fair and reasonable. And in our procurement file, we have all the documentation to support that.
Okay, so my follow-up to that then is, in 2 years, this contract, even with the 2-year extension, will be over,
Yes, sir.
and we will rebid it at that time.
Correct,
Okay,
sir.
all right. How many vendors are there in that particular field?
Good question. I brought with me the action item from the previous, and I believe it's not referenced in here, but last night when I looked, I think there were 6 companies that bid on the operator side.
Mhm.
Now, on the maintenance side, there were only 2 bidders, and at that time, there's 2 giants in the industry, and that's Cintas and UniFirst, as some of you already know. 2 years from now, I imagine we'll be able to garner competition, and that's what our department is all about.
Okay, all right. I just want to make sure we're doing this in the most, not only most pragmatic way, but also the most economical way. So,
Yes, sir.
yeah,
Fiscal
good.
stewardship.
Okay. All right, do I hear a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve.
I'll support.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, thank you. Passes unanimously. Thank you, Al.
And Mr. Chair, I'd just like to recognize, Ms. Jane Brown back here is in our transportation department, and it's her job
Oh,
to
I'm sorry. If I had
manage
known that, I would have
the.
had you come up here and talk to us.
Oh, that's okay.
She's the point person for managing 380 different people coming to her and wanting to use their uniform allowance, which is in their union contract, the bus drivers, to buy or get new shirts and stuff off this contract.
Okay.
So she's the one who has to deal with
Okay.
the,
So you're the one that has to deal with
as
all
Brian
the
says,
players.
the salespeople coming, trying to talk things
Okay.
out.
All right, well, hey, thank you for coming, and I apologize for not knowing that. I would have had you up front here talking to us.
I'm perfectly happy back here. Thank you.
Thanks, Jim.
Okay. All right. Abhishek, you're going to talk to us about BRT project management. How are we doing on that?
Sure. Well, good morning, Mr. Chair, members of the Finance Committee. My name is Abhishek Dayal, Director of Project Management Office here at PSTA. Now, last month, I was here in front of this committee to talk about the design services contract for our Central Avenue BRT project. This time, we're seeking your approval to award the project management and construction management services contract to HDR, and I'll talk a little bit more about the contract, the scope of services, and the process involved. So as you recall,
Is it on?
apologies for that. So as you recall, the Central Avenue BRT is an 11-mile bus rapid transit corridor with 17 stations serving downtown St. Pete through the city of South Pasadena and terminating at St. Pete Beach. The total project cost is $41.36 million, with a substantial portion of the costs being funded through Federal Transit Administration and our local partners, including FDOT, City of St. Pete Beach, City of St. Pete, and of course PSTA. So as part of the Central Avenue BRT project, we are anticipating awarding several different contracts. that will help us design and construct this project. Now, last month, as I mentioned, this committee took action into recommending award of the design services contract to Lochner, H.W. Lochner. And since then, we have awarded them a notice to proceed for design services. This month, we are seeking your approval to award HDR the project management and construction management services contract, which will essentially oversee the design services activities, and then when the project moves into construction, they will oversee the construction contractor and also coordinate on the vehicle purchase as part of this overall project. So what this PMCM or Project Management Construction...
Question, I'm sorry, back to that real quickly. There's no sequence here necessarily. We're going to approve each of those contracts on the bottom.
Correct.
At some point.
That's correct.
And the management company that we hire is going to, they take what we approve and then they manage that.
That's correct.
So there's it's not necessary to do that first. It just seems like you would have done that first and then do these other ones, but.
We probably would have done, we thought we were gonna do the HDR one first, but there were some complications along the way, it just turned
Okay.
out.
Okay, but regardless, now, we are gonna do each of the 3 contracts, the
That's
board
correct.
is.
Yes.
And then they're gonna manage that
What-
process.
Yes.
Sometimes people get a little creative with their logos. What is the exact name of this company?
I will
HDR?
have to get back with you on the full.
Yeah.
It looks like from my research last night and coming and finding that logo, it is HDR Inc.
Yeah.
They used to be called HDR Engineering, but they've gotten rid of the word engineering and they've made their logo
What's
something.
HDR stand for? The names of some
3
people that
people's
started it?
names.
Yeah,
I think so.
okay. All right. Okay. Sorry, didn't mean to keep interrupting you.
Not
We'll
a
try and come back to some questions.
So what HDR will be doing is essentially we'll be awarding a task order-based contract, similar to the design services contract. It'll be for 3 years, and they will oversee design and construction activities over the course of the project. And this project management, construction management team, they will bring on staffing that will have expertise with FTA guidance, the processes, the rules, essentially serving as an extension of PSTA's project management staff. They'll also have expertise in cost estimating, utility coordination, inspection services. So they really bring on a whole broad array of services that we will need during the course of the project. And it's really a considered best practice to bring on the PMCM services early on in the project development phase, particularly as we are about to start design, to really bring their expertise in to oversee those activities.
Okay.
And more importantly, was there a question?
Okay. PM and CM stands for Project Management and Construction Management?
That's correct.
Okay.
Yes.
All right.
And all activities that will be covered under this contract, they're all included in the overall project cost, which is the 41.36 million, the slide that I showed previously.
Okay. I hate to keep interrupting you here, but there's a lot of meat here. This contract is designed so that nothing's gonna slip through the cracks and we're gonna find out that we've gotta pay out more money doing something else. This contract is pretty much ironclad, and it's written by people experienced in these types of mega projects so that we don't have unexpected issues come up that are gonna cost us money.
So one of the tasks would be for them to do schedule and cost management, to make sure that we stay within budget for the overall project cost, and also stay within the schedule for all the activities that will be covered as part of this project, which includes doing the design, which Lochner will be doing. When we bring on a construction contractor, they'll start construction. If there's any right-of-way purchase, they'll provide that expertise to make sure we, again, stay within budget and within the schedule. And then also coordinate with our facilities group to make sure we do our vehicle procurement in time for our project to open by 2020, 2021.
Okay. I'm just trying to avoid us getting ambushed, that's all.
Yeah, the project this size could easily kind of
Yes, yeah.
slip a little. And all
Exactly.
of a sudden, it's an
Yeah.
extra.
Yeah.
Just, we don't probably need to get into it today, but just out of curiosity, the flow of funds, these $41 million, is it are those reimbursement dollars that sit there that we have to submit for them? Does the contractor that we hire submit for them, or do they front the money to us, and then how does that flow of funds actually work?
The way it works, like the biggest piece of this is going to be the Federal Transit Administration New Starts program. It's about 50% of the cost. And those funds can be one of two ways. We pay it and get reimbursed almost immediately. Or we can go ahead and draw the funds if it's a large dollar amount that we don't have in the bank, which fortunately we have a lot of money in the bank. But we can draw those funds down, and within 3 days, we should be paying out that invoice. After 3 days, we start to accumulate interest that we would owe FTA. So it's always been my practice where we have done it on an advance basis where FTA gives you the money. I always make sure that check is ready the day that the money comes in, so it goes right out.
So we're gonna be the clearinghouse, right?
We're gonna be the clearinghouse for all of it. We'll be getting, we've just been awarded the $9.5 million from FDOT towards this, and then we'll be putting in total about $5 million. And then we'll also have local partnerships to complete the whole funding package.
It gives me a lot of comfort knowing that we're doing it and your office
Yes.
is handling it, so that's good.
I mean, normally for a construction project, I'd imagine it works the same way. The bottom square, the contractor will submit an invoice, and it'll be first reviewed by HDR, the construction manager, in great detail, and then they will make a recommendation to PSTA to pay the bill, or pay us for a portion of the bill or whatever. The money still all flows through.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm sorry, go ahead.
No problem. So PSTA had issued a request for qualifications back in August. 2 firms had submitted a statement of qualifications, and an evaluation team comprising of PSTA staff and City of St. Petersburg recommended, after technical review and interviews, that HDR Incorporated was the most qualified team between the two. And so upon your approval and then board action, staff will start negotiations with HDR to issue them the initial task order for the project management services. So, yes, sir.
Sorry, what would you say that review process really said? I mean, did it say that one company was technically stronger, or did it say one company just has more experience in it? Or was there qualitative and quantitative things that really stood out about this group versus the other group?
Well, Al, if you'd want to chime in as well on that, on the evaluation criteria.
Thank you, Abhishek. When we go out for requests for qualifications, we said it's qualifications based. And my office works with the project management office to develop the evaluation criterion. This went through, I don't have the specifics on, I don't have it, but I just texted and it's on its way to me, is the actual physical breakdown of technical versus qualifications. And at the end of the day, those scores are compiled, and that's how we come to a recommendation. I believe with this solicitation here, with it being such a large dollar amount, that Abhishek and the project management office felt it was important that we even have interviews and go through an interview process where he would have the, for lack of better terms, the warm and fuzzy about the people that he would be working with.
Okay.
And does the FTA have any input on this? Do they have any suggestions? Do they have any work experience with these? I mean, we've not worked this kind of project before, I don't believe. So just wondering, do we have that experience to choose? Are we leaning on FTA to help us a little bit, or who has the expertise of these types of contractors?
Very good question. Abhishek is very experienced in big projects from a dollar perspective, and I think it was very wise of the agency to bring somebody with his experience. We also had someone from the city of St. Pete. I can't remember Tom's title.
Will, he's a planner.
A planner from the city of St. Pete, and Heather Sobush, our director of planning. She was also on the evaluation panel. So we had experienced people to actually an experienced selection committee.
Okay.
Best practice as far as the procurement practice and going through the RFQ practice. The RFQ process. My office follows all the FTA guidelines and best practices as far as the procurement process.
And in addition to Al's comment, I also reached out to other peers from across the country to see if they have brought in project management, construction management services. As Al mentioned, my previous role in Phoenix, we routinely brought in project management teams to really oversee projects of this
So
magnitude.
you're familiar with the two companies?
Yes, I have worked with.
Oh, yeah, both companies are
HDR.
smart.
No, but
Yeah.
you're personally, you understand the two company
Yes.
and felt,
Okay.
all things equal, you felt more comfortable. with
Based
this.
on the technical qualifications that we were looking for, we felt that HDR brought those required skill sets that we needed for this project.
For this project.
Right.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah, Commissioner Scott.
Thank you. So, are there any incentives in this contract if they bring us in under budget?
Well, this is going to be a task order based contract, so we will actually negotiate every single scope of services with HDR.
Okay.
And that will be subject to negotiations on this scope,
All right.
including the budget.
So I can see, why we would, want someone to manage the construction and the design, because that's not necessarily in our wheelhouse of what we do all the time, but why would we have them handle the vehicle procurement? Because that's something that I think we're pretty good at. Is there, why would
And
they
you're
do
correct,
that?
the vehicle procurement will be handled primarily by facilities department, but their role essentially would be to coordinate that effort so that it stays, the project overall stays within schedule and within the budget. And also so that the design team, they also understand what vehicles are being spec'd, and so they can incorporate that into their station design and roadway design. So they'll just make sure that all those tasks and activities are proceeding per schedule and per budget.
But the actual bids for the vehicles, they actually get issued by PSTA?
That's correct.
Okay, got it. So we control that, they just oversee it and make sure the timing is correct and, right, okay.
Yes.
All right, okay, thank you.
All right,
Yeah,
one more question. On the 1.7 million, you're saying that's that not to exceed, that contract still has to be negotiated though, right?
The task orders still have to be negotiated.
Okay.
1.7 is the overall cap.
And that was negotiated in the RFQ process? I mean, is that?
We did not
That was stated
specify
in
a
the-
contract limit in the RFQ.
Okay.
1.7 million was what was budgeted in the original project cost, the
Okay.
41.36 million. So that's what we used that as a ceiling.
And obviously they're very aware of it, so
Yeah.
they felt like,
I was just gonna ask.
they felt like bidding on this project
Yeah.
based on that not to exceed number.
It is, but they also understand that the specific scope still has to be determined.
Yeah, I get it. Okay, thank you.
Yeah, one more, go ahead.
Now, when you issue the task orders, will they come before the committee? Will the committee be approving the task orders as well, or we're just approving the overall contract and then staff is gonna take it from there? How does that work?
So similar to the Lochner contract, this committee will approve the overall contract limit, and then the staff will work with the team to issue and approve the task orders.
Yeah, I mean, we don't want to get into the nuts and bolts of it, but we want to keep an idea of what's going on. So we're going to ask that you be very candid with us in terms of reports on how things are going. You know, we don't want to know about every single purchase or every single thing, but we want to know what's going on at all times.
Every
Debbie?
quarter, I bring to the board our capital project updates, and what we can do, similar to what we've done with Flamingo, is bring, have special updates, but what we can do, because because this is such a large project, is specifically call out that at the quarterly capital update so that you can stay on top and you'll have a written backup to what's been going on since the previous quarter as well.
Okay, thank you. Okay, is that the end of your presentation?
Yes, so the recommendation
All
is
right,
to.
any other questions on this? Okay, does everybody feel comfortable with this? Good, okay, we have a motion?
Move approval.
Okay,
Second?
all right, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, passes unanimously, thank you very much, Abhishek.
This would be regular, then? Wouldn't it?
This is, I think it's gonna
Yeah.
have to be regular, yeah, this is
Yeah.
too complicated to just be doing.
We didn't say, but I think we'll put the uniforms on consent.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we'll be seeing a
I
lot
kinda
of you on this
figured.
one. Okay, thank you very much. Okay. Retail fair media. I'm not gonna shoot it on that one.
Good morning.
Okay,
My name is Prasa Zenko,
okay.
and I am here today to speak about action item 3D. This is to approve the purchase of retail fair media from Electronic Data Magnetic, Inc. So 5 regional transit agencies, HART, PCPT, the bus, SCAT, and PSTA, they have been all working together on implementing a new electronic fare collection system that will in the future replace the magnetic stripe tickets with smart card media and mobile app ticketing. So as our current contract for purchase of magnetic card tickets was expiring and additional magnetic tickets were needed for the transition to Flamingo fare system, we decided to conduct a joint procurement, and when I say us, it's the Regional Working Group, or RWG, to procure magnetic card tickets, which are these, the ones that we use today, and also in order to transition to the Flamingo fare system, we needed the limited use cards and extended use cards smart media. So just for your information, I wanted to share the cost of these cards ranges from a penny to 10 cents for the magnetic card tickets, and for the smart card media, 81 cents for the extended use and 54 cents for the limited use, which is disposable smart card. So in February of this year, RFP was issued on behalf of Regional Working Group, and it is staff's recommendation that Electronic Data Magnetic, Inc. is awarded the magnetic card type ticket and limited use and extended use smart card ticket. So staff recommends approval of 2-year base term contract with 3 one-year options with Electronic Data Magnetic, Inc., not to exceed 5 years or $232,880, and recommends approval to authorize our CEO to exercise optional years. Any questions?
Any questions? Okay, I'll have some questions. You said 1 cent cards, 34 cent cards, and 81 cent cards?
So, 54 cents for the limited use or disposable smart card, and 81 cents for the extended use, or the ones that,
Okay.
That's how much it costs us.
it's really.
Yeah, right, okay. So how do we know how many to buy of each?
And this is really good question, and we spent a lot of time to figure out, because this is new system to PSTA. We have never done this, but we have done research. There are other agencies nationwide, like TriMet, for example, Grand Rapids, that they have implemented the system a year before us, and we have communicated with them just to get an idea how much cards we will be using, but also it depends on the demographics. So this is new to us, but we are getting information from other
And
agencies.
this $232,000 number is a max, is a not to exceed amount. This
Right.
contract,
Oh,
we order
okay.
them every couple of months.
Yeah, I
based on.
I understand that, but I'm trying to figure out, I mean, that number is a guess, because we don't know how we're gonna allocate the funds between, the shorter use and the longer use cards and that kind of thing, correct?
Yeah,
Yeah.
so we did analysis, for example, because once we implement Flamingo system, we decided to sell the magnetic stripe for additional 6 months after we implement. So based on historic data, we are prepared to, to sell those cards. And in meantime, we are also prepared for the transition. So it was really tough to really get really good estimate, but based on the research that we have done from other nationwide transit agencies, I believe we are on spot. And also, all 5 regional working group agencies work together on estimating and figuring out how and how many and what quantity.
So this number is the working group cost, this is the PSTA cost?
This is PSTA.
PSTA. For example, Hart, they're bringing forth the same contract before their finance committee and board of directors next month. I do want to, if it, not to be so bold, but I do want to thank Spressa for all of her hard work on this solicitation. It's very, very complicated, and if you look at the pricing schedule, it took a lot of coordinating with all the regional working group members, the different counties, hard, and it was a daunting task to enter into this contract.
So they got a negotiated unit price, and then everybody is deciding how many they need.
Correct.
Based, and then the unit price was already established as a group.
Well, the contractor, they provided the unit price.
Right.
For the
group.
For each county, because
Right.
each one had different quantities that they
But the
estimate.
unit price was different for each county, based on quantity, or?
Yes, sir.
Based on
Yes, sir.
quantities.
Based on
they're
quantity,
different.
based on estimated quantities. The contract is written as such where we're not guaranteeing anything. We just put in our estimated quantities. The only thing that the contract does guarantee, that we will buy our cards exclusively from EDM.
The group.
For the specified price.
Yes, sir.
Okay. All right, Commissioner Scott?
Thank you. So as we go down the line, get, year 2, 5 years down the line, won't we be moving more towards smartphone type fare and less of actual, I don't think we ever get away from fare media, but don't we expect to be transitioning that direction anyway?
Yeah, based on research, I think it's easier. Everybody has a cell phone. You don't need to carry additional card in your wallet, and you can, plus PSTA will be offering open payments, which doesn't have to do with the actual card at all,
Right.
physical or virtual card, so yes.
So if we
that's-
actually push that harder, we could actually be even, we might not need that. I guess the
Exactly.
point is that I could see that we could very easily come in under that.
Yeah, me too. I'm hopeful.
Yeah.
Although
Yes.
it seems like with the Flamingo technology project, the app,
Could you give us the
app
numbers
is a little
again?
delayed.
What were the numbers again?
For the cost of the.
No, the number of cards.
Okay, yes, we can pull that information. The number, the quantity of the cards that we
Yes.
estimated.
Well, I thought you gave that to us once, but you did not, eh?
No, today I only presented the cost for each card, but we have that information. We have a spreadsheet. Debbie, do you suggest that we pull this?
So my next question then would be, what if we don't have enough cards? What if we need more? We can go back to the vendor and get more cards.
The contract is set up as an IDIQ, indefinite quantity, indefinite delivery. So that's just our estimated quantities. We can go up. At the end of the day, though, we cannot go over this contractual dollar amount without having to come back to committee and board.
Okay, and then we kind of hope we have too many cards and we eventually go to a telephone system or something.
Yes.
like that.
And what I wanted to mention, PSTA is actually thinking about that because our UPass program, and we are actually going to implement that on a mobile app, so we don't use these and we don't So we have had lengthy conversations and made some decisions to save money.
So Commissioner Bennett's question then is, we may not even reach the $181,000, is that right? Are we obligated to pay that much out, or no?
No, we're not. We're
No.
not obligated.
Okay.
Yes, and I just wanted to mention that we can order less cards, but within the same order, we need, for example, in the quantities that we estimated on our request, we have to place an order at once. For example, if we said 10,000, we will place 10,000 just so we can get better price.
Mhm.
It's economies of
Okay.
scale.
All right. Any other questions? Okay. Do I hear a motion?
I'll make a motion that we approve the 2-year base contract with 3 1-year options with electronic data magnetics.
I'll support it.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
All right, passes unanimously. Thank you very much.
Could we?
Okay,
consent?
good questions, everyone. Thank you very much. And I'm
Thank you.
sorry I couldn't.
And
Oh, yeah, should that be
Well,
consent? or-
Can we put that on consent?
Yeah, probably, yeah. Okay, now here's something that we're a little bit more familiar with, and that's our looper operation. Pretty cool.
Okay, good morning. For today's Broadway show, I will be taking the role of Cassandra Borchers for this presentation. This is an action item for your recommendation to approve a looper operating agreement. The looper is the trolley circulator system in downtown St. Petersburg. As you probably know, or those that have served on the planning committee know, we've been working on improving the looper for the last 2 years with the city of St. Petersburg. The looper has been running down there for, I don't know how long, 25 years or longer. Recently, ridership has been declining on it, mostly due to the closing of the pier. That was a huge part of the ridership, was the trolley that took people out to the end of the pier, the looper. And then when they closed that down, ridership dropped by about half, just on that. Recent surveys of the looper, and it's pretty obvious if you ever see it, is recent surveys show like 100% of the ridership are tourists. There's not many locals that ride it. Actually, ridership in the last couple months has been going up, but it is a tourist kind of system. And the goal all along with improving the looper has been to see if we can make it better so that not only tourists, but the growing number of residents in downtown St. Petersburg and workers in downtown St. Petersburg might be able to use it, might be able to not use their car to get around downtown St. Pete and use this more. So the route is going to be expanded in October to serve the hospital district down here in the south, and to provide much more frequent service and more and longer span of service to try to attract residents and workers. It goes by the 2 main parking garages that the city owns in downtown St. Pete now. And another big thing, it's going to be free. Right now it's 25 cents, but even a 25-cent doesn't really collect very much in fares, and it's an inhibitor because people don't carry a quarter. And they're now, maybe if it starts raining and a trolley comes by, you might want to get on it for free. Plus, the cost of the fare box never would recoup the 25 cents anyway. In addition, another big thing, which we're unveiling on October 3rd, is that in addition to trolleys, now PSTA will be operating part of it with electric vehicles. The new route, which is not too dissimilar from the current looper route, but it is, we're trying to coordinate it better with our other services, and that will be long haul, I think, a very important thing. The looper forever kind of was a standalone little trolley thing that really was very hard to know where it went, and most of the ridership was either to the pier or people that were staying at the Vinoy who wanted to go down to the Dali, because basically that was like a straight shot. So this blue line is the Central Avenue BRT. When it comes into downtown St. Pete, it takes a right and goes down to USF and sort of the hospital district. I think they call it the Innovation District to the south. And then this yellow line is the Central Avenue trolley and how it works. In addition, the new pier is going to have a separate tram system, they're calling it, kind of like a Busch Gardens like little vehicle that takes you out to the end of the pier and back. So it meets there. It'll meet there. The Cross Bay Ferry, at least the ferry that goes to Tampa, this year, because this road is closed, you can't get out to the pier right now due to the construction. So the ferry is now going to pick up right here along Bayshore Drive, just south of the Vinoy Hotel, for starting in November. Again, one of the key features of the new Looper is it's going to be free. So we think we will be able to attract, and our target is to attract, we're going to do a survey in the spring, non-tourists, which we call either, they don't have to be residents of downtown of St. Petersburg or workers in downtown St. Petersburg. These are the new signs. I think they're pretty neat. There's going to be a schedule on every single stop for that stop. So if you're just randomly walking aimlessly around downtown St. Pete, you'll know when the next trolley or electric vehicle is going to come. Obviously, it says free. So this contract essentially, for your recommendation today, is essentially a pass-through. We're sort of changing the funding system for the Looper from what it has been historically. Historically, essentially, PSTA, the City of St. Petersburg, and the St. Pete Downtown Partnership have been partners on an approximate one-third basis for this service for the last many years. Under the new arrangement, PSTA is going to pay for its operation, and the city and the downtown partnership are going to pay for the trolleys. So PSTA has in its budget to pay its own driver, its own maintenance staff. We don't have to pay for fuel, but because it's an electric vehicle, with the electrical costs of its vehicle, and we're going to run that. We are no longer going to write a check to the Looper Group for any trolley operations, but we are receiving for the next 3 years a FDOT grant of $300,000 a year, and we are the conduit now for the City of St. Petersburg funds. So this contract is for $653,000 that we will pay to the Looper, which is the City of St. Petersburg funds, and the City Council approved of this last week, and the FDOT funds. At the end of 3 years, when the $300,000 we estimate might go away, then the parties will have to renegotiate. But essentially, PSTA will, at least it's my vision, that PSTA pays for its part of the service that we operate, which will be the electric vehicles, and then it's really up to the downtown partnership and the city on how they fund the trolley part of this operation. So with that, I'll answer any questions. Oh, and I invite you to 10-3.
Right. Okay, Commissioner Scott.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So the $76 an hour that we're going to pay the Looper, is that $353,000 and $300,000 combined? That's what that works out to be? It's not coming out of PSTA general fund, it's coming out of this particular money.
Yeah.
So the city's going to pay us, FDOT's going to pay us, and then we're going to pay them.
Yeah.
Okay. Commissioner Bennett?
Oh, the electric bus, so we're gonna furnish that electric bus?
Yes, it's ours.
Will there be a charging station downtown?
Yes, not on October 3rd, but hopefully by December 31st, there will be a charging station right down here where it says number 12, that's a stop. But right down there by USF St. Pete is we're going to be installing in the roadway what's called an induction charging station. It'll look like a manhole cover, in the middle of the street, but the bus will just pull over and not actually make physical contact with it, but it will charge the batteries. It'll be a quick charge, basically on every loop. There's time built in the schedule for the vehicle to sit there for about 10 minutes and up its charge back up and then keep going.
But the electrical bus will start before that's installed?
Yes. We're testing the vehicle now to see what its battery, what its length might be. It's probably unlikely that we'll be able to operate the battery, the vehicle for the entire day until we get a better handle on it, and then maybe until we get some more electric vehicles. But it'll operate for part of the day, and then we'll probably have to supplement it with another vehicle.
And what will be the size of that bus?
It's 30 feet. It looks pretty much like a normal bus. It's going to have a fancy look to the outside of it, but it's 30 feet long.
How many passengers?
That's a good one. I don't know.
Well, the trolley buses are normally small.
Yeah, it's about the same
About
length
half
as a
the
trolley.
size of one of our buses, our normal buses.
It's
Well,
not that small.
No, I think that, I don't know, Brian, maybe, I think those trolleys are about 25 feet long or.
Well, if they're 30 footers, then they'll hold it probably at least 30 seated and probably another.
So the electric bus will be similar size?
Yeah,
Smaller than our normal bus?
yeah.
I think it's just smaller just because it's doing circular.
I wouldn't want to see our electric bus being towed back here to the terminal the first couple of weeks we get it, so.
Me
Kind of need to
either.
make sure that the battery's on half-life when we decide to come back and recharge it.
Yes, we're obviously going to, we've already started talking about some operating procedures to make sure there's cushion in the span of the vehicles, that they have enough juice to get back here.
You see the PSTA service truck giving it a jump.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Commissioner Akers.
Well, yeah, so, again, I think these numbers here again represent this coming year.
Yes.
Or the following, is this a one-year service, these numbers that you showed us? Or is that
These numbers are per year.
per year?
Yeah.
Our commitment to this service is an electric bus, or is it just a bus service? I mean,
Our commitment is the operating cost of approximately $389,000 or $390,000 to operate the electric bus portion, which is one of the 3 vehicles operating on this all day for the expanded hours. So that's included in the budget.
So how many of those buses do we have?
At this moment, we have 1, and we're getting a second one hopefully in the next week or 2. So we'll have 2.
But they're dedicated to downtown St. Petersburg and no place else in the county at this point.
For now, the electric vehicles will be dedicated to this service. We have now funding. We've been able to receive grants to buy 4 additional electric buses. And with the changing technology, we're thinking that those additional 4 will have a longer span. We think these might even have longer spans so that they will not be dedicated to this, and we'll be able to use them on other routes.
From a service standpoint, if the electric buses are down, we can provide any other bus there to take care of the work.
Yeah.
Okay, let me ask a question. That $390,000 comes from what? That's the cost of the driver? Are we amortizing in some way the cost of the purchase of the bus? Because I think that's funded by another source. So what else is involved in that $390,000?
Your
I'm sorry?
propulsion power, the driver, maintenance.
Insurance.
Everything but capital.
Yeah.
Everything but capital.
Okay, where is this bus going to be stored overnight?
Here at PSTA.
Okay, because this is our only charging station.
For now.
Yeah, we were talking about putting one at Grand Central or somewhere else like that.
Well, we're still debating that. I mean, right now, we've only purchased one fast charging, induction charging item, thanks to Pinellas County providing us some BP settlement
Right.
funds
Okay.
for this one.
So we have the overnight one here, and we'll have a street induction source
Down
charging
there.
station down there.
Yeah.
Okay.
At least my personal hope is that the battery life will be long enough on these, and then the battery life will continue to get better, so we won't have to spend that $500,000 that we're spending on this one, because the battery life will just allow us to buy the lower cost ones, and they'll just recharge at night.
Okay. All right. Any other questions? Commissioner Eggers?
I guess it's just more of an editorial comment. We just preliminarily approved a budget that shows a $1.7 million shortfall. And we're providing a $389,000 service to the downtown St. Petersburg, presumably mostly tourists that are down there, that are using this service, and we're not charging them anything. So our system is being expensed this amount of money without any revenue.
We're doing that now anyway with our regular ones.
We're doing that with, again, why? I mean, if we're doing that for downtown St. Petersburg for the people who can afford it, but yet we're charging moderate rates to everybody else who can't afford it. So it just seems a little bit odd that we're providing a service like this for free. I mean.
Well, I
to
mean,
the
there's
people
lots
who-
of, most cities, I would say, have a free circulator kind of service down.
I'm not worried about most cities. I'm talking about PSTA, the organization that we have, that's running a deficit. And we're not getting any money at all from the city of St. Petersburg for that service. I mean, they're providing their own, which they should.
Yeah.
Just, again, I'm just saying, it just kind of seems weird that we are providing a free service for an area that can afford it the most, as opposed to the other way that we, editorial comment.
Commissioner Bennett, I think, did you have another question?
No, I didn't.
Okay, Commissioner Scott.
Thank you. Well, first of all, Commissioner Eggers, I think it's a great point that you just brought up. But who's providing the vehicles to the Looper?
They have their own vehicles.
They have their own. Okay. As I read it may be in here, and I may have missed it, but I just didn't see anything referencing vehicles at all. I mean, I see installation of equipment and PSTA electric bus, but I didn't see.
I think the Looper PSTA owns 2 of the Looper trolleys that we have leased to them for the last 10 years at $1 a year technically.
Right.
But essentially, the city of St. Petersburg has purchased some additional trolley vehicles for them just in the last couple of years.
So do they still operate those leased vehicles from PSTA? Do they still have those?
I think
Is
they
it
do.
just one or 2?
2.
I mean, shouldn't this agreement reference that?
They have a separate lease agreement for the actual vehicles. That
They
might
do.
be why it's not in this operating agreement.
It just seems to me that should reference that somewhere in the operating agreement. Just a point.
We
This is
can-
something I would think.
We
should
could add it to the
reference.
next contract.
And then the term just seemed a little open-ended to me. If I can find it in here. Considering that we don't know what the funding source might be in 3 years. If I can find it.
Isn't it subject to approval each year by all the parties?
Well, it said after the initial term could be renewed for 1 year, additional 1-year terms. It didn't say like 2 1-year renewals or 1 year, it just said additional 1-year terms, which just seemed kind of a little open-ended to me. But, maybe that's just, if we're comfortable with that, we're comfortable with that. It's just a comment that I noticed in there.
I think the city, at least from my understanding from talking to Sandra, who worked with the city on this, was both the city and PSDA are most comfortable with having this be approval on a year-by-year basis to
Right.
see how it goes.
Yeah, the initial term shall commence October 1, 2018, commence through September 30, 2021. At the expiration of the initial term, the agreement may be renewed for additional one-year terms upon mutual written consent of the parties. So that would have to come before the committee and the board, right?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
But any other questions? Okay, now, specifically, are we looking to move this forward to the commission in its entirety? Is that the idea here? You're looking for
This
approval?
agreement,
Yes.
again, it's been approved by both the City of St. Petersburg and the St. Pete Downtown Partnership in its current form. So we're recommending, this committee recommended for approval by the PSTA board.
Okay. Yes, well, go ahead.
Is there any exposure in this agreement for PSTA to go beyond that $653,000?
No.
So, if for whatever reason the Looper couldn't perform, we would end up putting more of our own buses on it, and then our contribution would go up, right? At that point.
Right.
I mean, it's unlikely as that is to happen, but I mean, I'm just.
We've never done that
Right.
before. I mean, I don't know if it, explicitly says that we'll never give them another vehicle, but it doesn't expose us to any more.
Okay, it's just the $76 an hour. I just wanted to make sure that we weren't gonna, that $653,000 doesn't turn into $750,000 because they expanded hours or this or that
It won't.
or whatever. That's all. Just
If that happens, I'll build them.
say what?
I said if that happens, I'll build them.
Okay. All right. Good.
Commissioner Bennett, good.
Brad, where is the costs of the charging station? Where are those costs? They're not on that chart, is that
Correct. The capital cost of installing of purchasing the equipment that is the charging station and then installing it in the roadway there on 6th Avenue South is in our capital budget. And the funding for that is provided by the BP oil settlement funds that the Pinellas County received a couple years ago and then approved a bunch of different projects around the county. One of the projects was this charging station.
Is that charging station only gonna be for this bus, or will it be available for an electric bus that we might have on our normal route?
It's on this route, it does connect, other buses go on this route as well. And the type of charging station equipment that we spec'd out, at least we believe can be even used by other manufacturers. It's a separate company from BYD that makes the bus, that makes this charging station, and we know Gillig and New Flyer and others are using the same technology so that they can use this in the future. So whatever kind of bus we buy in the future could use this also.
Do we have some kind of estimate as to what that charging station is gonna cost? Do we know?
We do.
Yes, sir, I don't have that information with me, but it's in our contract with the cost.
Is it millions?
No, it's about $500,000
$500,000,
for
exactly.
the equipment plus the construction to put it into the roadway, and there's a little electrical box right next to the road.
Yeah, it's about $418,000 for the charger itself, another $173,000, somewhere in there for the install. And the other thing is we talk about battery life improving, is our contract with BYD allows us to upgrade to the next level of batteries as the technology improves, so we're not stuck with old technology.
All right, and the contract to put the equipment into the roadway in St. Petersburg has already been coordinated with St. Petersburg, so we're not gonna have an issue with digging up their street and that kind of thing?
Painfully, yes. It is in the hands of the lawyers of the city of St. Petersburg and USF and Alan Zimmett as we speak.
Yeah, because we sort of need that in order to run
We
this
do.
thing. Okay. All right, any other questions? Does everybody feel comfortable we can present this to the?
Yes, yeah, I'm not gonna support it, but yeah.
Okay. All right, do I hear a motion to approve?
I'll move that we approve the funding for this trolley system and electric bus downtown.
Okay, is there a second? I'll second. All right, all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Okay, all opposed?
Nay.
Nay.
Okay, so we're
Okay.
at a stalemate here.
Well,
Well, our vote doesn't really matter. It's just a recommendation, right?
Mm.
I mean,
It's not, my only objection is what Commissioner Eggers brought up, is that I don't know why we're doing that for free. That's my only concern. I don't have any problem with any of the other part of it, I just don't know why we're doing it. I mean, I guess if Safety Harbor, which has got a cool little downtown area in Tarpon Springs, and then he said, hey, we want a free electric bus up here, how do we get onto that bandwagon?
And then we'll have services from the beach to the airport, Clearwater Beach to the airport, which is for tourism, and that won't be free, and it shouldn't be free. I mean, it's just,
shouldn't be, I mean, on this, the issue is, these are very short trips, and we're basically trying to attract people that otherwise are walking. And, you know, as we know, as this committee knows, the cost of a fare collection system, as Russ just explained, is very expensive. The fare box is more than $15,000. Then it will never be recouped by the 25-cent quarters of getting, you know, tourists or non-tourists to pay for it. So it's, in my estimation, it's cheaper for PSTA to make it free than, and we'll get a lot more riders by having it free versus charging 25 cents. It actually saves PSTA money. We don't have to manage the fares and have a whole collection system set up on it. So from a PSTA point of view, it's actually lower cost for us to make it free. And we do get, through formulas that we, you know, from the federal government and state government, the more riders we get, the more state and federal capital dollars we get by having more riders. So that would benefit us as well. Again, we're looking with the city of St. Petersburg on a way to provide this concept of downtown residents and workers in downtown with a way to get around. We're going to be carefully monitoring this. If it's still, say in a year's time, is only carrying tourists, especially when the FDOT grant runs out, I think we're going to have to take a hard look at whether it can be sustained. And if it's just a tourist-oriented system, you know, then perhaps we do make a change, or we take this electric bus away and then just have the city do whatever they want to do. And we deploy the vehicle somewhere else.
it truly has been a tourist only. I mean, I wasn't even thinking necessarily fare box recovery, so that wasn't really where I was going. It was going, this is a service for downtown St. Petersburg, and/or it's a service for our tourists. So there are funding sources for both of those.
Well, you know, I don't know whether
That
I
is
can
not
agree with
PSTA.
that.
It's, you know, it's
Yeah.
like the CVB, those tourist dollars, if it's a tourism thing, or the city of St. Petersburg, who already has a fairly large commitment. I mean, I just don't know why it's, you know, it falls on us for a localized service. I mean, we're trying to identify riders, our routes all over the place that are a little more productive, where we're making some money. We're trying.
Yeah.
And when we have a budget year that we're in currently, right now, from what I remember, it's a plus year.
Yes.
We actually had excess money because we did a millage rate for this year adjustment that actually wasn't needed. But we do need it this coming year, and we're running at about a $1.7 million deficit. So I mean, I don't know why we're in the business of helping out. That's all I'm saying. So I think we just have to be very careful. You're going to monitor it closely. We'll see how year 2 and 3 go, but those are significant dollars as a part of our $1.7 million loss for
Yeah.
the year. So, thank you.
Commissioner Bennett, you want to say?
Well, I just had a comment about designate this as for tourists only. I know hundreds of people from Gulf Boulevard to go downtown and ride that trolley on a weekly basis. And they're not tourists. They've lived in my condo complex for 20 years. So I'm not a tourist, and I ride that all the time. But you may be right, 75%.
Oh, I was just using what he said. I don't have any empirical data to support that. Brad's the one that said it's been primarily tourism.
But I think we could do other things. We could put a sign on the bus that says "Shop at this store" and.
Yeah,
charge
we're
the store.
gonna try to market.
We can do those, try to market
I
some of that.
understand.
And as you know, we are in discussions with the Visit St. Pete Clearwater TDC on those, on tourist-oriented services like this, like the Jolly Trolley. Maybe some of the tourists paying for some of that in the future.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, all right. Any other comments on this? Okay. Let's talk about informational items. Debbie,
Thank
finance?
you. This will be quick and easy, I hope. Every year I like to bring back for the review of the committee our reserve policy, our liability debt management policy, and investment policy. We have no recommended changes for this year, but I did want to bring them back to you for review. There's no approval needed, it's not an action item.
Okay, thank you. Investment policy,
Yeah,
anything on that?
Yeah, they're all grouped together as one
Mhm.
information item that we have no recommended changes this year.
Okay. Any questions? All right, go ahead.
Nope, none.
Okay. All right, any other topics for this meeting today? Okay.
And one question.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Sorry, no, it says, we had talked, I think Commissioner Scott had brought up at one of our meetings, the concern, it was only a concern about how we're gonna maintain the electric buses. And we were gonna review that procedure here in this committee. I think that's what we decided at that board meeting. I was just
Yes.
wondering when that's scheduled. I'd like to make sure that we have that. I just wanna understand a little bit more about our repair people and what they're exposed to and what they're, what the, that process is gonna be about. It was a little concerning what he shared with us, so.
I know Henry has started even, I believe, prepared the presentation for that.
Oh, good.
He's actually in California at Gillig today, so hopefully next month.
Cool, good.
Is it Gillig or BYD?
He's at Gillig today,
Checking out their new electric?
checking out their electric bus.
Okay. Other electric buses? That's not
Supposedly.
where Gillig's factory is, right?
Yeah, it's in Hayward.
It's up in, the Bay Area.
Right, okay, all right,
He has been hanging out at the LA area at BYD a lot lately.
right.
Okay, which is really exciting. I'm sure you're loving that.
All right, well, thank you very much. Meeting adjourned.
Mr. Chairman, what happens to this item that's tied
It'll go forward to the committee, but
Reliable,
there's one way to do it, right?
we have 200
Will
other.
it go forward to the total board? Even though we didn't.
Yeah, they haven't made one.
It's irrelevant, really. to be-
They promise them.
We make a recommendation, but the board
BYD
has
is
to
the only
make the
one
determination.
that has one.
Okay.
The board can override it.
Yeah, as they've done before, right?
Yes, it can, or
Recently.
it can, or move forward, either way.
Yeah.
Just generally what happens.
Well, all of the.
Okay, thank you, everyone.
Formal
All right.
possibilities.
Thanks for fighting the traffic to get here today,
Almost all
man. I don't know what was
America,
going
they're
on,
all
but it
trying to
was-
get into the market. And then
No,
we
I
have
don't
these
think that,
bad
I got to
Oh,
180.
BYD.
Homerton was, like, a parking lot.
They don't.
Yeah,